Thank you. So, before I go on to the... everyone got what the talk's about. I just wanted to quickly break down what those words mean. Does anyone here know what the real meaning of education is? Without me. Colin? To draw out. It's from the Latin educar, which means to draw out what is within. So really we all have knowledge within us. And this talk is about creating a centre to be able to draw out the best from what's within. Sustainable, and you could easily put sustainable at the beginning if you wanted to. What does sustainable mean to you? Will?
Destroy everything else around it. It works within its own environment.
Something that works with the environment works
within its own environment.
Within its own environment.
That it persists over time and is resilient to, like, not dissipating, not being there. It stays there, it resists perturbation, it's stable, it endures, its existence continues throughout time and space, and space-time and time-space and real space.
It feeds itself.
Feeds itself. And communities. Who here lives in a community currently? 3 of us? Really, we all do in a way.
Oh yeah.
And how many people here would like to live in a community that's not quite standard and a bit more off-grid, maybe with a learning centre in the middle? Most of us? Brilliant. Okay, so in this talk, and depending on how fast Will wants me to talk, and you do it in 5 minutes or in 2 sections, we're going to go on a journey around the world of looking at inspirational educational centres. We're going to go to America twice in our minds. We're going to go to Bali. We're going to go to Russia, Sweden, England. Anywhere? Have I missed anywhere else? No, I think that's it. So we've got quite a nice round the world tour of educational practices to inspire us for what we can do and implement ourselves. When I gave this talk at Off-Grid, this was originally 3 circles. This was when you start up an educational centre, you explore the principles, the building and the teaching method. This has now evolved into 5 spheres, as you can see, and these are the 5 things that I'm going to be talking about today. So we've got the principles, what we're going to start off with, the approach to learning, the connection with nature, the learning spaces, which is a different way of phrasing a classroom or a building. But to learn, we don't really need a classroom. Learning can happen anywhere. It can happen on a beach, it can happen in a forest, it can happen. So that's why I call it learning spaces rather than a building. And longevity or sustainability. So these are the principles that I've created for anyone to use in whatever way they want to, for anyone who wants to start up an educational centre. But I really suggest that if you want to start up any kind of project or centre, that you come up with your own principles that work for you. These are what's worked for me, and this is from my inspiration of all the different schools and projects that we're going to see in a minute. So, before I explain anything, just to bring people in a little bit more, does anyone want to say what they feel from just looking at those words? Or does anyone want to elaborate in their own way on those words?
It seems to be the opposite to what the education system does for children today. It's the opposite.
It's the opposite of what, okay?
Yeah.
In your opinion?
I mean, you've got things like collaboration. I mean, everything in school is about competition. It's nothing about collaboration. So, the fundamental principles. Positive output. I mean, I suppose they tend to, you're not having to play anymore, because that's against health and safety. and there's no point in peer teaching because it's got to be a hierarchical system.
Well, it depends on school, isn't it? Like, it's not everything like that. It's
mainstream education is...
You do have play, and in primary schools, for example.
It depends on the school you're in, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So positive outlook, we'll see it, we've got a short video in a minute, it's about fostering, for me anyway, it's about fostering kindness and gratitude and integrity within the people in that environment. And I say that everyone is a student and a teacher, so I don't say within just the students, within everyone, because everyone teaches and learns. Collaboration, about working together and exploring new ideas rather than just being told what the ideas of what the facts are. Play, learning through play, acknowledging that learning through play and having fun whilst learning is really beneficial for learning. And peer teaching, learning together and taking turns to teach each other is really important. Sustainability and innovation, they're together because innovation is about coming up with new ideas, and for me, I'd love to see things like free energy be taught to children so they can then come up with their own ideas of how it works, or they can then explore even further, or orgone energy, or how a solar panel works, and they can learn to build it, and then they can innovate in their own way creatively. Responsibility is about acknowledging ourselves, our actions, what we do, and our processes, and what works and what doesn't work. And possibility for me is about creating spaces where children have the opportunity to wonder and imagine and explore about how life could be rather than being told how it should be. So they're the principles that I've come up with for me, that what works for me, and if I was to start up a centre tomorrow, that's what I would use, but I would always recommend that people discuss in a group what principles work for them. So our first stop on our Around the World tour is America, in Seattle. And we're just going to see a short little video clip in a minute from something called Puget Sound Community School in Seattle.
Welcome to Puget Sound Community School. We're thrilled to have you here.
Everyone smiles in the same language.
Enjoy being with someone.
Don't wait for people to be friendly, show them how.
Shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you'll land among the stars.
The plan is we're going to head over to the library and we're going to put your kind thought notes inside of the library books as our kindness activity. Just think of yourselves, we're an extension of the Karma Army.
We're going to go in and put them in randomly selected books. I'm excited. Super excited, actually, because we're making a difference in someone's day.
I love this. This is a big part of what it means to be part of a community school. We go out into the community and we interact.
We started a school that's based on kindness. I mean, I've never heard of that before.
Okay, appreciations.
I appreciate Juju.
I appreciate playing Santa's Helper this morning.
The 30 views that I got on my website.
I appreciate Steve Miranda. I think he's awesome.
At this base is what we're trying to do is basically help demonstrate and build high character. We believe that when students have that as a basis, an environment starts to unfold. When we hire staff, the one qualification we look for is people who have integrity. What comes here then, on top of that, are academics. There are no required academic classes at our school because we believe that when you build this, human beings naturally do this.
What does Telemachus know now that he couldn't possibly have known then?
We can go from a class like the Odyssey or dissection, they're literally dissecting rodents today, to things like cookie decorating. So it is an incredible range. Students are here because they want to be here. They're doing what they want to do because we let them do what they want to do. And interestingly enough, when you put kids in that environment, what they want to do is develop themselves and grow.
It's so much more fun, and I enjoy waking up and going to school.
Here we go 5 days a week, and I'm like, yay!
I didn't think kids were like this.
You'll see that the rooms all have windows. The idea of that is to be able to see what's happening in your community school. This is a place built on trust and other character. You don't need a closed door locker here. It's open space. So here's what you get here.
Kindness is such a great thing, and you really should learn because, it comes up so much in life.
Learning about kindness is just as important as learning about math and reading, because being kind to others is, it's really big.
I appreciate my mom a lot.
I want to appreciate the potluck last night.
Lunch with Margot and sight reading.
Sundry was especially awesome today, thanks Leanna.
For May and Jimmy.
I do this because it's fulfilling, and it's fulfilling every moment of every day. The byproducts of me being happy with my job happens to be a bunch of happy kids who are pursuing things that satisfy that.
You can make a difference in someone's day, and I feel like a lot of people are unaware of it just because they don't get to like do stuff like this.
By a show of hands, who here would like to go to that school if we were young, 10? Oh, full of us. It's a nice school, isn't it? And do you see why now I believe that it's really important to do the principles first? That school's built on kindness, and that's their principle. Kindness, trust and gratitude. Act with integrity, work with the community, and work with each other, support each other, and come from a place of kindness. And when you start at something like that, whether it's a school or a business or a project or anything, and you start and you look at your principles first, that's the kind of thing that can happen afterwards. If anyone's interested in kindness, by the way, the head teacher of that school, he does kindness lessons online. So you can go onto his blog and you can have a different lesson each week and take part in his kindness lesson for the week. Last week it was be kind to yourself, do something kind for you this week. So, does anyone have any questions about that school or about Seattle?
Seattle. Yeah. And what is it just open to the town that it exists in?
Yes.
Yeah.
In Puget Sound.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like anyone can attend voluntarily.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Or you could get a job there.
Mm. Yeah, because I liked how it was embodied in the community and it was sort of inseparable from it, and they were like, they go out into the community and come back. I quite like that because it's not like a fixed walled structure where everyone is separate in their little reality in a box of, you know, it's not compartmentalising human consciousness, which is, I think, valuable. So.
It's very integrated.
Yeah, it's very integrated, yeah.
Anyone else got any comments or questions about the school?
What age range is it? Is it from kind of?
I think it's from age 7 or 8 up to age 16 or 17.
So is it like enormous work from the morning,
yeah,
not an alternative type? It's a.
They have the whole day there. Yeah. It's just they do it. The way, you know, the bit in the film where he says, we start with their character, and then we do, and there's no lessons that are compulsory. But they all want to be there and they all choose what they want to learn. And their lessons, as he was saying, their lessons are so diverse they could be doing anything.
And if it's connected to the community and say the members of the community make themselves known, then they could be brought in to teach the students, couldn't they?
Yes, but his only thing is whoever comes into the school has to be passionate and has to be willing to work from a place of kindness. Can't be a bad thing.
Have any of the kids left there and got jobs or things like that?
I'm not sure. I've spoke to Andy, but I haven't spoke to any of the children about what they do. I know they've got a lot of the older ones working on their own kindness projects and their own enterprises to create a better world. But I don't really know exactly what they're doing.
I quite like that there was a lack of doors.
It's all open.
As soon as I saw that, I can remember being in school. Every room you went into had a door. And mentally, if you're there all day, you start feeling closed in. Whereas you're reaching out.
Yeah, it's all about reaching out. We'll come back to that in a bit when we.
Outside.
So the lockers as well. That's just such a tiny little detail, but again very significant because it alters the consciousness of the people who use it, don't they?
Yeah.
So here is a locker where you lock your possessions away where no one else can access it. That's what I had at the school I went to, and you know, that does create a certain set of beliefs and assumptions and behaviours and a particular character, isn't it? So, yeah.
Yes, definitely.
I thought applied learning was pretty cool because all the learning is about kids observing what's going on in their environment, and then they say, oh, let's do something about that. Oh, let's go now to do this. It seems like it's that way around.
Yeah.
And that means that the learning that's taking place is more directly applicable to their direct environment.
Yeah, and it's much more relevant. So on every level it's relevant and meaningful to the students. So are we ready to get on a plane and fly to the next country? This is a school in southern Russia. And the children there, they built the school themselves and they paint the walls themselves. So if they feel inspired to paint something on the walls, then that's what they do. And this is a quote from the principal of the school. Young people often conquer summits simply because they've never been persuaded that these summits are unattainable. So how many here, by a show of hands, have you gone to do something and then not done it because you felt like you couldn't do it or you weren't able to? And of those people that put their hands up, did you feel like you couldn't do it partly for a reason because someone told you that you can't do it? Because if someone tells you you can't do it, then you've got that belief that you can't do it and you're not going to be able to achieve it. But whereas if you see like a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old, they'll just do anything because they haven't been told that they can't do it. You'll just do it. And so here we've got applied learning in a different way. The students, they go and learn about mathematics in the classroom and then they learn it and how it applies to building a brick wall. And these are the students building the foundations of another building to do with the school. So these are just 3 of the pictures that children have painted on the school walls. So the one at the top is their canteen, their dining hall, and that was painted by an 8-year-old. This one here with the bird, it's a whole classroom, bigger than the size of this room, and every single brick has got a different painting on it. And this bit it's literally about this bit on size on a wall. And so you can see the amount of detail and effort that's gone into making this beautiful artwork, and there's a different pattern all over the room. And the children really take responsibility for their environment. They really believe that their environment has a massive difference in how they learn and how they feel. And so they want to paint beautiful, colourful pictures on their walls. And this one here on the right, this is their main hall where they do their dancing and their martial arts. And they have their concerts in there. And that's the mountains in their local area where they are. They have quite a lot of mountains and forests. So that had come from inspiration from their local area. But all those pictures were painted by children. So I'm moving on now to the approach to learning. So how many of you have ever said, I can only learn this, but it will take me 6 months, or it will take me a year to be able to learn this particular thing? I was talking to someone the other day and she said she can only learn to drive a car if she does 10 driving lessons. Can anyone relate to that? I can only do it in this time. Well, that's because someone has told us we can only do it in this time. But really, we could do it a lot faster if we really understood how our brain works and how accelerated learning works. And so, for me, what's really important is empowering children in all different schools around the world, empowering them to really understand how they really learn best. So that's what this is about. And both the previous 2 schools, they do a lot of this automatically because they've got their principles in place. Their principles of putting the children first, student-centred learning, applied learning, creativity. So, very quickly, this is accelerated learning. There's 5 parts to it, as you can see, there's 5 petals. The first one is relaxation. Has anyone ever here had to sit in an exam or had to focus and had a really bad headache and not been able to do anything other than think about the headache? Yeah? So relaxation is really important. If you're not relaxed, you're not going to really take it in. Is everyone here relaxed, by the way? You comfortable? No. No? Do you want a cushion?
You mentioned driving lessons.
Sorry. It took you back, did it?
I'll let you know about it, right? Because it relates to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because of all the hang-ups I'm trying to lose in my life, right? And the self-work. It took me 5 tests to get through it. But I got through it. But that's because of peer pressure that you've got there.
Yeah.
This peer said, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't do that. And I wasn't free. And that's like the story of my life, so it really relates to what you're saying. You understand what I'm saying?
I do.
7 years as well.
Can anyone else speak that?
You feel better.
Well, it just shows the power of words. When we say something, whether it's to a child or an adult, when we say something, the words really go in and really hit us. You know, we can really feel them, and sometimes we can feel them still 20 years later, what somebody had said to us that they didn't even mean, or they'd said in a joke. And so it's about understanding what the power of the words really are, and how to be aware of our words when we're speaking around other people, but also in terms of what you're saying there, about to be able to let go of what other people have said, and to be able to just say, well, other people have said it will take this long, I can do it in however long it takes me. And that's okay, and to be able to let it go. Sorry, do you have a question?
Well, yeah, because I was just going to say, does that equally apply to what other people think as well? Because sometimes they don't even have to say it. You know that they're thinking it because of what they say and the way they say it.
Yeah.
It's almost, it's not telepathy, but it's like, you know, you're resonating with their thoughts and you're thinking what they're thinking.
You get the
and that basically is equal to them saying it, isn't it? So, I mean, if you're sensitive, then you can be influenced by what other people think. Yeah.
Well, again, to take this back to a personal level, if you start on your principles as a person, and you know what's important to you, and you know what you value and what you're good at and what your strengths are, then no matter what anyone says, you should be able to go, okay, I hear what they're saying, but that doesn't resonate with me.
Yeah.
So that's why the principles are so important, because then we can recognise what our value is. And that everyone in the world has value. It's just that sometimes people don't see it in that way. So, 5 things for accelerated learning. Relaxation is the first one. Second one is collaboration, which, funnily enough, is one of the principles at the beginning. Third one was wholeness, which is about eating lots of the right food. Fruit and nuts particularly, as opposed to sugar and fat. So, particularly eating things like an orange or banana during learning, during a lesson, is really beneficial for students. And drinking lots of water is really important for the brain. And it says here, can everyone see it? Use both sides of the brain. So I'm going to do something now, if anyone else wants to. This is called brain buttons. This is an example of use both sides of the brain. So you put one hand like this, and one hand like this on your stomach. And you put it on your collarbone, and you rub it like this. Feels funny, doesn't it? They do this in primary schools in America, across America. This is from something called Brain Gym, and this is called brain buttons. It literally switches on the brain, and it's connecting up the 2 sides of the brain. Has anyone here heard of Brain Gym before? Yeah? A little bit? From me? Do you use it?
Yes, occasionally.
Do you?
I use that one. Oh yeah, it's that from Brain Gym.
So this is from Brain. So this one is. So if you stick your finger out in the air, and then go up in the middle, and you trace a horizontal 8. So an 8 on its side, or an infinity sign. And you can do it like this, or this is from Tai Chi, but it's the same thing. And so you follow an 8 round. Again, you start in the middle, and you go up to one side. And this is really good on many different levels. For your breathing, but also for connecting up both sides of the brain, funnily enough, and for balancing you. It's really good for balancing. So one more while we're on it. So if you cross your feet at the ankles, you're already there, Toby. So at your ankles, and then put your arms out in front of you. Cross them over like this. Put them together. This is called hookups. This is used for if you're in a stressful situation, or you've got a headache, or you're bored, or you feel rough or tired or angry, or there's someone near you that's arguing. You can just sit in this or lie in this, and it will dissolve a headache and dissolve the stress. So that's from Brain Gym, which is wholeness from the green petal of the flower. Then we have memory. We can't really see the words, but that's about the different things associated with memory. And like I said, I feel like it's really important for everyone to be able to understand how memory works, and to be able to use memory techniques to enhance our lives, essentially. And if every school and everyone everywhere used memory techniques as part of everyday life, then things would be a lot easier to remember. Funny that. And it would, what ends up happening is you end up accelerating parts of your life and using your time differently when you use memory techniques. And some parts of memory techniques, they seem like they take a long time to do, but actually they save you a lot of time. So it's all about just the only thing I'm going to say about memory techniques now is create images in your mind. Whatever it is, every time someone tells you something, turn it into an image and visualize it in your mind. That's the main thing for memory techniques. If you can visualize it as an image and you can remember it, link it to the words, then you've got it and it will be there. So for example, the other night someone was telling me about an organisation called Redbox. So what did I imagine? A red box. But the key thing is seeing like how big is it, the details of it. How big, is it got a lid on it? Where is it positioned? Because the more details I see, then when I come back to think about it, I'm going to know that it's a red box. And that's what she was talking about. And the fifth one is teaching, again, which relates to one of the principles at the beginning, peer teaching. If you ever want to learn something, the best way to learn it is to teach it. And that goes for every subject. And any time you do learn something, to make sure you really understand it, the best thing to do is to explain it to somebody else. So, before we go to a little break, should we just quickly, to the person next to us, explain something to somebody else that we've just recently learned? So, it can be anything. It could be anything from yesterday, from today. Just turn to the person next to you, or in threes or twos, and teach them something that you've learnt. It doesn't have to be in the last week. It could be anything, but something like that will take you 1 minute to explain. Is that all right? Could be anything. Come on, Will. So, I know some of us are still in the middle of teaching, but we're going to have a break now. So, in memory, a thing on memory that we can't see on here is it says repeat, review, recall 5 times. Now, every time you learn something, if you really want to learn it, you need to review it. So let's go back to the beginning. What should we do?
We're on an aeroplane.
Review. Review, let's review. So where do we start?
Education.
At the beginning of the talk, not the petal.
Your name. Principal.
Tanya Moore, Will. And then what? Will sat down, and then what happened?
Show a video.
We went over the individual things for the words.
Yes, so education. What's education? Bring out, draw out what is within. Anyone else? Sustainable. Longevity. Pardon?
Eats itself.
Peer teaching. That was one of the principles. Anyone else remember any of the principles? I wrote up 7 principles in a list. 7 principles. Do you remember what any of them were? Play, collaboration, positivity. Pardon? Fun was play. Possibility.
Environment, sustainability. And
close.
attitude.
Sustainability and innovation. Yeah.
Positive attitude.
We had that one. That was part of positivity. Collaboration, play, peer teaching. Should we go back and look over them just for our own benefit? So for responsibility was the one that got me.
Nobody wants to be responsible, really.
I think we all have this idea, for me personally, we all have this idea of how we should behave, not how we want to behave, and what's appropriate. And responsibility is in there because it's about people acknowledging what's right for them at a given time and feeling okay with that. And similar to link back to positive outlook, positive outlook doesn't mean ignoring anger and not being sad. It's about creating an environment that fosters kindness and gratitude and integrity, and that if people want to express their emotions in any way they can, then that's okay. And positive outlook is creating a positive environment, for me anyway, having a positive environment where people can feel safe to express their emotions in any way they want. So we did the principles, then what do we do next?
Video.
The video of the school. What was the best thing about the school? Pardon? Yeah, what was the best thing about the school?
The best thing was the way it was open.
The community aspect. Anyone? Anyone? They were all happy. They all wanted to be there.
Yeah, yeah. And they really enthusiastic about how they were.
Yeah. I was said to Libby, I can email the link out to that video if anyone wants to see it, or I can put it on the Facebook group if you want to see it again, or you want to share it with other people that you know. And likewise, the second country that we went to, where was that? Russia. There's an online video of that that's half an hour long. It's too long for now. But I can email that and put that out for anyone who wants to watch that and see the children teaching each other and discussing. Yeah, you could do that. Yeah.
We missed out a big section, which was like the flowers, and the building, the.
That was before the principles.
Yes. We missed that out.
That was the overview of the whole talk.
Yeah.
The overview of, if you're creating a centre, these are the 5 things to explore, these are the things to look at. Yes, we didn't review that. Does everyone remember now? 5 things: principles, the approach to learning, and we're just about to get onto the connection with nature, learning spaces, and longevity. And there is already a lot of repetition in this talk naturally, so I'm not going to repeat myself too much any more than I already do, in the sense that the principles, the accelerated learning techniques, the learning spaces, they all connect together. That's why it's all circular, it's all holistic. The more holistic you could be with your approach, the better it is. So, I'll move on now. So, connection to nature. Does anyone here watch TED Talks? Yeah? There's a really good TED Talk by this man, there's a picture of him on the next slide, called Stephen Ritz, in the Bronx in New York. And this picture at the bottom and this picture at the top are both from him. And I'll show you what he does in a minute, but one of his things with this food is that from harvesting the food straight to the classroom, 0 miles. The food is right there, the children learn to grow their own food. That's what's important for him. And this picture with a little girl, for him what he wants is to see every child in the world have the opportunity to feel connection to nature and to feel this love that we have when we've grown something, and this connection to that plant or that piece of food that we can then eat if we want to, or share with other people. And this picture in the middle is from forest schools. Has anyone here heard of forest schools or done any forest schools? So forest schools are, you can become trained in a forest practitioner and then you can go and learn as a child. And you can go and learn bushcraft, you can go and learn foraging, you can go and learn all kinds of things. It's all based in the forest. And it's really amazing, incredible work that they do. However, some of it is alongside standard school and they only have a certain amount of hours in forest school time. And there's some schools that are just forest school based, so they just do all their stuff in the forest. It's brilliant. Does anyone here love climbing trees? And does anyone here love just playing, just running around and exploring a new piece of woodland or a new piece of countryside? It's really important for us to just kind of get around and see all these little paths and nooks and crannies, and that's what the woods give us. Yeah, there's quite a few nearby. There's one near Bath as well. What, the one near Bath? No, I've forgotten the name of it. I'd have to put it on the... But yeah, there is one in that area. So this man, Stephen Ritz, the project that he came up with was creating indoor classroom walls made out of plants. And so both these 2 pictures are of a classroom wall. And what they do is they get crates, like pallets, and they put them all together, and the children learn how they can drill them in a certain way, and then they can plant spinach mostly, and rocket and lettuce, and then they install it on their wall. And they were doing it in a really rough part of New York. And since they started their project, they've had all kinds of schools from across the whole of New York ask them to go and install a green wall in their school. And what happens is they pick the food and then they take it to the canteen and then it gets prepared in the salad and then they eat it. So that's a slightly different way of looking at our classrooms, where we've got plants growing right on the walls that we can just pick and eat if we want to. So I'll start with the green because we've just had edible walls. Edible walls. Now in the centre it says learning spaces because, again, we've already covered quite a lot of this, looking at the Russian school and looking at the school in America, at the kindness school. Creating a space that's suitable for learning rather than creating a room, which is different. Learning can happen anywhere, as I said. And so these are the key things for me, based on my different teaching experiences, that I feel are important to learning, and from all these different schools and what they do. So we've got edible walls, having learning outside, like in a forest, learning from the trees or learning around the trees. Eco-building materials, come on to that in a minute. Having plants around. Having different shapes. Shapes are really important for learning. Whether you're inside or outside, using shapes really affects your memory, and it's really important for kinesthetic learners to have different shapes in their own learning as well. But it's also about the furniture, what furniture is there. And curved layouts, circles, are far better than straight lines because that's what nature does. There's no straight lines in nature. And if we look at exactly what nature does and we learn from nature, then it's all about curves and circles everywhere. Creativity, we saw that in the Russian school, allowing the children to paint whatever they feel like painting and put it on the wall. Having different chalkboards where they can just express what they want to express. And using lots of colour is really important, not just for creativity, but also for memory. The more colour you use, the easier it is for something to remember. Flexible, again, like we saw in the kindness school, in Puget Sound Community School, they've just got different spaces and you can use some bit for here or you can use it here. So it's about, suddenly you can turn a space into an area for learning, or you can do it outside, it doesn't matter. And at the school in Russia, they have, in terms of flexible, their boards are on wheels and they have these benches with tables attached, and they just say, where do we want to learn today? And they just set it up. They literally just, okay, let's go outside or let's go inside, let's go to this space, and they set up a circled layout, a semicircle with their board. So having spaces that are adaptable and optional furniture that they can move about is really important as well for the children. And lots of natural light. Again, we heard Andy Smallman in the first video talking about all the light and the windows, letting the natural light in. So before I move on, has anyone got any questions about that? No? Okay. So in Sweden, they've just decided to get rid of classrooms altogether. So this relates to what you were saying earlier, Toby, about doors and classrooms. And what they do is, again, they just have learning spaces. So this here, and this is across 30 schools in Sweden. The picture on the left is known as the island, and it's like a central meeting point. And this one is a creativity point where they discuss or where they plan or where they do their own work. And their whole design is from an artist and an architectural firm, and it's all meant to be to bring out children's creativity. The only thing for me is there's not any plants around. But it works for them, they love it. But for me, it really shows the importance of having open spaces rather than walls. So you could just about see the green school in Bali. This picture on the right at the top is the inside version of the one on the left. They don't have any walls or doors anywhere other than the science lab because they have to. And you can just see they've got different spaces there that they use as classrooms. And then on the bottom left one, that's their furniture. It's all circular. Everything is curved. Their bookcases are curved, tables are curved, chairs, everything, it's all curved. So that's the green school in Bali. And they say they do that because that's how nature works. It's the same. So now we go on to longevity. If every 8-year-old in the world is taught meditation, we will eliminate violence from the world within 1 generation. So meditation is important for accelerated learning, for well-being, for peacefulness, and it can completely change, as he says, a person's outlook and a person's whole perception of life and the way they operate around life. And we saw the video from the kindness school. Those children, they just want to be part of the community. They want to go out and they want to make someone else's world better. And if someone meditates and they feel peace within themselves, then they feel more inspired to give someone and support someone else to feel that peace too. So longevity for me is about these 4 things. We've got the peacefulness in the corner. We've got the resourcefulness, which is about storing energy and understanding how renewable energy and renewable resources works, whether that's using solar panels or free energy or wind power. We've got the idea of children actually learning to grow food and giving them the responsibility that they can grow food, and this is what it looks like, this is how it feels, this is what it tastes like, so they're responsible for growing their own food, and that would completely change a whole generation. And this picture here is about empowering children to be leaders. If every child knows that they're a genius and they can do whatever it is they want to do, if they've got an idea, they know that they can put it into practice. And we can empower them to be leaders rather than sit back and just let everything happen to them, alongside with the 3 other things, then that will help make things a lot more sustainable. So, has anyone else got any questions? Or any comments? No?
How can we start to implement this in schools, like normal schools?
Share the importance of relaxation. The first thing for me, is if we can all learn to relax properly, whether that's through meditation or yoga or Tai Chi. And the more we can, whether it's through a school bringing in an outside person to do a yoga class, or whether it's they decide that they're going to spend 5 minutes throughout the day, not just at the beginning of the day, but throughout the day, just having everyone take time out. There was a school I heard of in Kent where it's slightly different to relaxation, but they decided to recognise the importance of children needing to move about. So they have 10 minutes wriggle time. So for 10 minutes, all the children can move about and wriggle. And that's just as important as 10 minutes is feeling peaceful. So it's about, in any way you can, talking to the school and helping them recognise the importance and what it could mean for them. So in terms of the wriggle time, what that does is, if children sit still for longer than 20 minutes, then their brain is being deprived of oxygen, and then their learning rate completely decreases. So if they have wriggle time every 5 minutes every lesson, then that will help them learn and focus and feel more energised in their lesson. Similarly, if children have the opportunity to meditate and just sit still, then they're sending oxygen to their brain, and they're putting themselves in a much more relaxed, calm state for learning. So any way you can express that to the school will help them.
I wanted to share a quick experience. Today I was running a workshop in a school, and halfway through the session I said to everyone, a bunch of disabled kids actually, so those who can, everyone, put your hands up in the air. So, you know, and if you can't, just wriggle around like that. And then, you know, so we actually had a break, and, you know, came back. Then it's like, because it's a music workshop, you know, you could feel actually quite often when I run sessions, you know, the energy starts to flag at the end and come back up. But having that nice, just, you know, quick breathing, little thing, quick stretch. Yeah, everyone. Okay, and now let's do the tune again. It just makes keeps the energy going, and something so simple, you know, as that can make a massive difference to your teaching.
Yeah, really
so
does.
you know, I think let's try and reach more teachers with these techniques, because you know there's nothing in the curriculum that says you can't use it, you know, and they're really simple. So.
There's no restrictions on relaxation. Let's relax. Any way we can to share with anyone we know, and it's not just about schools, and it's not just about children, it's also about us. Yeah. So it's also about us taking time out to relax. And a little thing with accelerated learning, I realised that our brain works in patterns. Well, we all know that, but sometimes we get drawn into doing something for longer. And if we do something for just 20 minutes and then stop and have 5 minutes to do something different, then it will help us and save us a lot of time. And that's accelerated living. And I've implemented that in lots of different ways. I still sometimes end up doing something for an hour, but that's when the productivity just goes down and you've lost it anyway. So every time we can, just 20 minutes, half an hour, and then have a break. So regular 5-minute breaks is really important for us, and just doing some breathing or some stretching or anything will really support us to manage our time better. So has anyone else got any questions?
What about if you're in the flow and you kind of, because I seem to remember when I was younger, I used to kind of, if I was doing something creative, sort of like lose myself in it, and it you know, could be for like hours, but because it was like in a flow, in a different state, it's like you don't need to take breaks. Is that different somehow? Like
It depends.
Because it's not learning, it's creating.
Yes, well, well, I don't know. You could. That's why I put play as one of the principles, because you can learn through playing a game of Monopoly.
Because, but I'm just thinking maybe like the 20-minute thing is more for like forming new synaptic connections or something, and it's like your brain just gets tired. But if you're creating, maybe it's a slightly different thing.
What?
It's not necessarily engagement in one task. That's what I'm saying. It might be something more specific, like learning.
There's two things. Yeah. One, if you're in flow and you're really passionate about something and you're just going at it and just discovering, creating, then that's okay, and just carry on with it. But the other side of that is our brain needs a lot more oxygen than we realise, and so sometimes just running up and down the stairs or going outside, getting a bit of fresh air and come back in again can really support our brain so that we can be more productive in the next bit. So it's a balance. It depends on where you're at and depends on how much movement you're doing in your process. How much movement, how much breathing, what your position is, how much water you're drinking.
Maybe it would enhance the flow state. You just keep going.
Yeah.
Do that, and it just accelerates it.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
It'll be there for hours.
Yeah. So Will?
Yeah, I say when I make furniture, I just get in a zone. I'm there for hours, but I don't drink enough. And I don't. I always feel really thirsty.
And you know, the moment you start feeling thirsty, that's when you're beyond dehydrated anyway.
Yeah, but you just so locked in, especially when you really concentrate on something that needs to be very precise.
Yeah.
You stop in the middle of the flow, it's very hard to get back into that again.
Yeah, I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
So it is just about implementing it and getting it into a practice.
Yeah.
Which comes. It does come.
Yeah.
Confucius said if you find a job you enjoy, you don't work a day in your life.
No, you don't. It's true.
Work becomes play.
Work becomes play. Work becomes play. So, just to review, what was the first country we went to? America. And what happened in America? The kindness school. The really lovely school where they start and end every day with gratitude. Gratitude is really, really important, and that's an exercise that we can all do where you just write down your gratitudes at the end of every day. It totally shifts your state that you're in and it helps you sleep better. And then what country did we go to after America? Russia. And what was in Russia? The pretty paintings on the walls at a school in southern Russia where the children paint on the walls and they're encouraged to express themselves in that way. What country did we go to next, Will?
Sweden.
Sweden?
Yeah.
No, America, right? Oh, no,
Sweden open schools.
Yeah.
No classrooms.
No classrooms at all? Yes.
No class. A little bit sterile.
And then where did we go? What about Stephen Ritz in the Bronx?
Oh yeah.
Back to America. And then we went to Bali.
Veggie walls, then Bali, everything, no straight lines.
Yeah.
Curved furniture. The more circles we can have, the better it is. It's the same for our houses as well. The more circles we can have, the better it is.
Makes you wonder about the tables in the streets, doesn't it?
Circle furniture is really difficult to make. Yes, I know. This is quite a nice piece of nice table, right? No.
I mean, what they're saying is soft lines, really. Like the cushions and things, although they're square, they have soft lines to them, don't they?
Yeah.
It's not rigid. There's a big difference between seeing a rectangle dining table with these sharp corners with some curved, where it's a bit softer at the corner, whether that's just curved completely or whether that's a circle. I understand it's more difficult to make, but so if you imagine like a cob-built house or straw-bale house, it can't be in straight lines because it doesn't work. But it wouldn't be completely circular either, but the idea is that every line would have a curvature to it. So we've done the review, and that's it. That's me finished. So just to sum up, for us, the most important thing we can do is learn to relax. And if anyone wants to learn about accelerated learning, there's a lot more on my website, tanyamoore.co.uk. There's a detailed video about accelerated learning and how it works and memory techniques. There's quite a lot of different information about memory techniques. I also do quite a bit to do with kindness and pay it forward. Has anyone heard of pay it forward? So that's the idea of doing something for somebody without expecting anything in return. And the more things we can do on a daily basis for other people without expecting anything in return, we're creating a better world anyway. So, and there's a video of me of Truthjuice, but you can find it on my website if you want to watch it. My main thing is to teach accelerated learning, and how I got into it was because I realised that a language can be learnt very, very quickly if we just look at languages from a slightly different approach. And so I realised that a GCSE can be covered in a week, and a language can be learnt up to conversational in 2 days. So I do that with Spanish, just because a lot of people want to learn Spanish, and it's quite fun. It's a good language. So I do a Spanish course in 2 days, but it can be applied to any language. I haven't yet done it in Mandarin, and I've got a couple of people working on doing it in Arabic. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when you completely change the alphabet. It's been done in Russian and Spanish, so have done a different alphabet already. And I do an accelerated learning course, 1-day course, if anyone wants to learn all about accelerated learning in a lot of detail. We play all the games, we do all the different techniques, all the memory techniques. And so people have got the resources that they can then use and apply in their own way. So thank you very much for listening. I've got an email list, I've got a sheet of paper if anyone wants to be on my newsletter list and receive accelerated learning tips. And if anyone didn't get a poster will and wants to get one, you're welcome to. But thank you for coming on this cold night, I really appreciate it, so thank you.
Thank you very much.